Okay, we will open up this Housing Authority, City of Brunswick Housing Authority regular meeting for December 14th, 2022. Let's begin with a moment of silence, followed by an invocation. Yes, we're still good for that? No? Okay, so we will take a moment of silence, and then thereafter we will go into the agenda. So, take a few moments of silence to yourself. All right, thank you. I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
Make motion to accept the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Let's second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson to accept the agenda, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion? Oh, yes,
So we need to just do the invitation.
We're going to run through this real quick. But no, we still got to add this in first.
That's what I said.
I need to go ahead and add
Okay, we need to amend the agenda then.
it.
Amend the agenda to add the ACOP, EEOC revisions, so it can be submitted to the subcommittee.
All right, so I have a discussion. I have a motion by Chair to add the EEOC policy to the agenda under as item 1A. Do we have a second for that?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Dickerson. Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor of adding the EEOC policy to the agenda as item 1A, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. That motion passes unanimously. And to accept the agenda, now that we've made our amendments, all those in favor of accepting the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, have the same. That motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on. Corporal Wright, we're ready for you.
Good morning.
Good
morning.
Today I'll be reading a monthly report for November, and also on the second page I actually compared the month of October, also numbers. For Abbott Andrews, for the month of November, they had 22 calls, 3 reports, which consist of assault, domestic, and a weapon offense. Brooklyn Annex, 4 calls, 1 report damage to property. Brooklyn Homes North, 26 calls, 3 reports, 2 assaults, and a problem person. Brooklyn Homes South, 16 calls, 4 reports, a fight, runaway juvenile, damage to property, and assault. Mercer Alabama, 18 calls, 1 report, which was an assault. McIntyre Court, 75 calls, 13 reports. 1 was a wanted person, which was he was arrested, criminal trespass, he was arrested, problem person times 2. 2 runaway juveniles, theft, noise, 2 juvenile problems, suspicious, and damage to property. Terroristic threats and domestic. Glen Villa was 27 calls, 1 report, which was theft entering auto. Hopkins Homes Annex had no calls, nor reports. Hopkins Homes had 11 calls, 5 reports, 3 assaults, 1 abandoned vehicle, which was towed, and a fight. Compared to October numbers, Abbott Andrews dropped 2 calls, which October had 24 calls. Brooklyn Annex, October had actually 2 calls compared to November 4. Brooklyn Homes North, in October they had 23 calls, and in November they had 26. Brooklyn Homes South, in October they had 23 calls compared to November, which was 16 calls. Mercer Altama in October had 17 calls, and November had 18. McIntyre Court in October had 87 calls, and November had 75. Glen Villa in October had 24 calls compared to November, which was 27. Hopcon Annex in October had 1. In November, no calls at all for the month. Hopkins Homes in October had 14 compared to November, which was 11.
Officer Corporal Wright, damage to property, is that to house building property or personal property?
To like their vehicles, so personal property.
Okay, thank you.
Will you have,
That's still an issue, but thank you.
will you have the times, that's how many assaults you had in those calls?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But what, over in McIntyre Court, it's pretty bad here.
Yeah, that's my.
I want to
my
ask that
area.
same question about the theft. Was it in a 2 apartment or what
That
is-
was actually to someone's property.
someone's
So,
property?
I believe that's what it was. About
And the runaways.
runaway juvenile was from one apartment, you won't believe, but
Yeah.
we get those really often.
Are the criminal trespassing, are the people that are in violation of not being on the property?
Yes. So the wanted person. So he was.
He was
wanted.
wanted. Okay. Good job.
Thank you.
Good
Is
job.
Is it anywhere in the site manager's office, or is it anywhere openly that resident can see who's barred from the complex?
Yes, they actually have the BART list posted inside their office, and it's also online, I believe.
Okay.
Any further questions for Corporal Wright? Hearing none, thank you, Corporal Wright. We appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for the addition of the month to month, that's excellent.
I'm gonna do better with it. I just
Thank you,
can't-
Corporal Wright.
You're welcome.
You're doing a good job.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna have a brief introduction of Sergeant Williams. Very brief introduction from Sergeant Williams. We had an opportunity to meet him out at Job Corps. He is a Army recruiter here serving our area, and just allow him to. You got a minute and a half, 90 seconds. Go.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I appreciate you guys having me here. So I'm Sergeant Williams. I'm the Army recruiter here in Brunswick, and I'm also a career counselor. So I operate out of various high schools, Glen Academy, all the way to McIntosh. So my goal here is pretty much to not just get people in the Army, but to help them as well. It's based off of what I've been studying about the area. I've noticed like a lot of kids, they tend to get in trouble early. You know what I mean? And I'm here to try to alleviate that. So with you guys' help, you know what I mean? All you gotta do is reach out to me, and I'm not only a career counselor. I help people. I love doing it. It's a passion. That's why I volunteer to be a recruiter. So with that being said, I mean, I'm here pretty much a phone call away, 24/7. I'm always on my work phone trying to figure out where I'm needed next. And I'm at the Glen Place Mall in Brunswick. So I'm also right here. I'm no less than 5-6 miles away. So I'm here. All right. So I appreciate you guys again for having me.
Okay.
Thank you.
We make sure that we all get your card.
Yeah. So on the card thing, I ran out. So I guess because I'm the new guy, I have to be moving around a lot. So I tend to drop a lot of cards off. But I'm scheduled to get some more sometime this week, and I will drop them off. And then on the next time again, I'll make sure I have everything ready. Because technically, I wasn't prepared for this particular meeting, but being here, what I'm here is I'm here for a listen here as well to know where I can fit in and where I can go.
Great.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
Good
all right,
deal.
thank you.
Next, we have a delegation from the Brooklyn Homes Resident Council. Come on up. You're the next contestant on Price is Right.
Ms. Hayes.
Madam President, Denise Hayes, congratulations on your
Congratulations.
Thank you. Great job. Yes.
Appreciate each and every one of your help in this process. It's been a long journey.
Yes.
And just overall excited to be working with you guys to make our communities better and bring the residents' voice to this meeting. So thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Ms. Hayes. Ms. Hayes.
Ms. Hayes.
Ms. Hayes. Yes, if you can you do a list or let the residents know, we need more residents to come to the monthly meeting.
I can
See
do
what,
that.
yes, okay. If they can sign up, when they can come or whatever, let them know when we have our meeting.
We'll do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Again, thank you guys so much. I know it was a long and arduous journey to get to this point, but we are very happy and proud of the resident council being established, having their elections, and we look forward to working with you guys to help better our community and public housing.
And we would like resident council Dobson to work one-on-one with you. And, so he can bring a monthly update report if anything is going on.
Right.
And you can come back to the meetings every month
Well-
to see what's being told that you can take back to the residents. Okay?
Well, we will,
Yes.
we'll have to discuss how, we'll have to discuss that.
I mean, it's just,
Yeah. Because you gotta play dual duty, so there may be a small conflict. But we'll work it out, we'll check all the regulations to make sure. Moving on into old business, do you guys wanna take these separately or together? We have approval of the, regular meeting minutes held on November 9 and the executive session meeting minutes held on November 9. Do you guys wanna take those separately or together? That is your,
I know the issue is that we doing that fruit on the salad. The way you go with it, you should speak like anybody go through, and the issue with that executive session.
do you wanna accept the minutes together? Do you wanna take it all at once, or do you wanna take it separate?
together, please.
I mean, it's your pleasure there, I just need a motion.
Motion to set it together.
I second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Dickerson to approve the regular meeting minutes and the executive session meeting minutes on November 9, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously. Approval of the November 2022 financial reports. Has everyone had an opportunity to look over those?
What was financial report when we had that $1,000 in the hat? Because we never got a line item of how that money was spent. Was it in October or was it in November?
For what?
The line item on the financial report.
It's a
$1
lot.
million
$1 million.
on the financial report. $1,775,000 and some change. That was in October or, the report. I never got a chance to ask that question.
In the October financials?
Yeah,
I don't recall.
There was a,
You want to email me
yeah,
with that?
I can.
you're saying there was a line item for 1 million
In a hat. In a
in
hat,
Georgia hat
yeah.
in October?
I'll go back and look at October's, and then if I can figure out what I think you're talking about, I'll email
Okay.
you, or if you do, you email me, and we'll talk about
Okay.
it, figure it out. If anybody has any questions about this month, I'll be happy to answer them. I'll just say it's been the closest thing to a routine month we've had in a while. And now, the plan now is, since we've got the organizational chart approved and the salaries approved, we can start. I need to revise the budget, just for a lot of things that changed since July 1st, including where people are, where their salaries are charged, this and that. And so there are a lot of changes, so a lot of the budget to actual comparisons right now don't necessarily make a lot of sense. So I need to do a budget revision to get that in line with the way things are structured right now. But as far as the actual day-to-day for November, it was a pretty routine month and nothing out of the ordinary.
Let me ask this question. When those salaries went in, when do they get implemented into the employees' paycheck? Jamie would be able to answer Okay.
that question.
I have a question about that vote on those pay raises. Yeah, I wanna go back to, okay. All right.
Any further questions about the financial reports? I will entertain a motion to accept or approve the November 2022 financial reports.
I can make a motion that we approve the November financial reports.
I will second it.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson to accept the November 2022 financial report, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion? Hear none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously. Moving on to Executive Director's items, new business. First thing on there is the approval of the ACOP and admin plan policies. Director Baker, you want to take that over real quick?
Yes, sir. Good morning. First of all, I would like to take the time to thank the commissioners for allowing us to direct this agency in the actually start turning this ship around. I want to apologize, first of all, as in our efforts to do so. It hasn't been easy, and has been very
I'm in a meeting right now.
productive. But I do offer my apology if I've done anything unprofessional to upset any of the commissioners. Moving on to the approval of the ACOP and admin policy, I want to turn it over to Mr. Charles Brooks, who will go over some of the details of that. So,
Yes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. I gave short details. The one I tabbed for the commissioners is important because that has the optional policies that we needed to adopt. Everything else is pretty standard. Let's go to the big change. It's actually the pet policy. The pet policy says now if someone has a pet, you have to have the owner there. So of course we'll work with the owners to make sure that that happens. There was changes to the fee schedules. We were already doing fee schedule changes here anyway, changes to late payments, the elimination of a lot of fees used to be charged and how much the bad check charge are. So those things have changed. I tabbed that one because that's the one that's discretionary. You're supposed to have your own standard. So we went through a whole bunch of stuff on criminal activity. So we need a criminal activity standard. We need a recommendation for English as second language. Technology is kind of taking care of that right now. Basically anybody with a phone can translate and meet the minimum requirements. If we get a lot more or issues, of which we've had 0, then you can go into more translation apps or something like that. Right now I don't really think we need it. The old school ways to have a phone you can dial in order to get a translation. Now technology takes care of a lot of that. And our reasonable accommodation policies, I'm not aware of any problems that have come in for people who have disabilities. but we do need to adopt it. But that tab page is what we need to pass, and so I've set a recommended criminal activity standard. All I'm doing is adopting the same standard I proposed back in, it was either August or September, regarding that waiver, Fourth Amendment waiver, which we're not using, but I'm just saying the standard for criminal activity, which is multiple 911 calls, complaints from the neighbors, and a corresponding statement from the resident manager that something's going at that particular apartment. So that's kind of the short down and dirty of it.
Yeah.
We're gonna make this ready.
You lost me and confused me there just for,
Sure.
can you, this is for a criminal activity policy.
Right. Every criminal activity policy is local to that. I'll get it. Don't worry. Oh, you got it. It's local to every housing authority. So you're supposed to have it. Everyone has to have their own translation accommodation to people with other languages issue. Like I'm saying, technology takes care of that. Everybody has to have whatever their reasonable accommodation standards are. It's going to be different depending upon the size of the housing authority. I'm not aware of us having any problems, so reasonable accommodation modifications fairly easy. But
What's that got to do with criminal activity?
these are all the things. I'm just hitting all of them. But I'll stop with criminal activity. We need a criminal activity standard.
So this is going into the ACOP or the policies? Because,
I think it's both.
It's
all
going
right,
to both.
because,
The ACOP sets the policy.
okay, so,
Who is that? It's Ogden.
who?
Our director, Ms. Ogden.
Ms. Ogden.
So,
I'm sorry, yeah, it's me. The ACOP sets the policy for how things are run with pertaining to the public housing. The ACOP is the things that when we have to go to court, we have to have, the ACOP sets up our own policies and procedures. It is what we will defend in court. HUD has their policies, and then ACOP is pertaining to our housing authority. So we have to have our own procedures in there, policies in there as to what we will do, but it has to go along with what HUD says.
Correct.
right,
It can't conflict.
right. So if we're on the ACOP and the policy subcommittee, don't we need to sit down and look at this before we agree to submit this in order to put our ideas of how we see to go forward?
My understanding is that's when we covered the NAN, some of those policies I've covered as far back. I'm not saying in a full presentation, but in terms of just short answer questions, when I was getting emails and questions that were coming back to the board about it, these policies was covered. Because for the most part, 85% of this is the same as last year. Nothing's changing. It's about 15% or so, and the big one was the ones I gave you, which is in terms of the pet policy and the charges, and you've already addressed the charges numerous times.
Let me say this, that time we at the end of the year and we got to approve the ACOP and the admin plan. We reduced to these three issues because multiple calls since I've been here to residents have, to a particular resident, a unit has, lack of that number one policy has allowed them to win in court when they really need to move on. We are trying to pursue a quality of life for any and all residents. It goes in line with HUD provide a decent and safe. Number two, as well, neighbors when they have complained about activity and we got police reports that can verify and can justify those activities. It goes again to provide a deep and safe environment. And when our resident manager, historically our resident managers have not had the authority or power to enforce the lease. It has been written kind of real loose, and we want to tighten it up to provide that quality and safe, deep and sanitary housing, which is required by HUD. These three issues right now only address the safety of our residents, and we come to the end, and we need to do something I do agree with Commissioner Bailey that I would suggest that we approve it so we can go ahead and meet HUD's rules and regulations, and let's come back and see, Commissioner Bailey, how can we
Change it if necessary.
change it if necessary.
And also addressing your direct question, which was the coverage of it, those are that set of emails that was going back and forth about what criminal activity is, what it's not, and that was what that standard's about, that I think all the commissioners, I don't remember Commissioner Dobson being on that chain when it was being discussed. There was a subcommittee, as I recall, regarding criminal activity and all those emails back and forth. And for whatever reason, it became a 4-member committee. But I call it a committee because I remember Dickinson, you were in very little in the email chain.
Yeah.
And there was a lot more with 3 other individuals.
I don't think at this meeting that we can digest and understand, because since I've been on this board, policy and procedure is just something that Mr. Kitts and I just looked over and were beginning to outline until we had this administrative change. I don't want to, in the past,
Yes, ma'am.
since this administration been here, things have been passed and approved, and then when it comes back, it gets slapped in my face. That's not happening anymore. I'm not approving or signing anything until I can understand the verbiage and understand where it's going and how it affects us and things like that, so.
And so I just want,
right now.
I just want to address the latter half of that statement as a question. Affect us is passing something as opposed to nothing is about HUD compliance. So there's 2 different issues, and you're absolutely right. You should fully understand whatever policy. So I'm not disagreeing with anything a commissioner has to say. I'm here only to say regulations say you need a policy.
Got that.
You can change it,
Got
but
that.
you got to have a policy. You have no policy.
I got that.
So all the emails and all the other stuff was about a policy. The recommendation about the language stuff, which is not disputed, that's not criminal activity. I know, but I'm saying something needs to be said, something. And you can go back and augment, change, however way you want to do it. But the question is, what's criminal activity? It's not, I don't.
This is a
It
requirement of
varies, that's a
HUD.
broad question.
This is a requirement of HUD.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
Commissioner.
will you be partnership with the police department on this?
We are.
Will you actually be partnership with the police department
We are.
on this policy?
We are.
Okay.
And the policy,
And it's for the safety.
Yeah, and the policy, and to your point, the policy incorporates 9/11 calls into it. So it's
Right.
not an independent determination of the resident. I didn't mean to step over you.
That's all.
I'm sorry.
You did.
I know.
But our lawyer's not here today, and I just think this is more in-depth and important than the time that we're going to take to try to explain it and understand it. So we can, when does HUD wants this something in by?
We need this by the end of the year, so where it would be my suggestion that we have an emergency meeting. If we don't approve it today, immediately after Christmas, if anyone is available. So we need to have what I would suggest to the commissioners, that we have an emergency meeting. I mean, the subcommittee meet that day, then we have an emergency meeting thereafter to go over, to approve what we have agreed on, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
My question would be, if we had a subcommittee already, why we haven't already made a decision on this? I wasn't in the subcommittee, but
You were a tag email, as I recall, just saying.
so apparently we
I
had the
wasn't
chair,
either.
the vice chair, and I believe
Yes, previous member.
Commissioner Sorrells, that's no longer part of us. So why this wasn't already handled before why we
The
gotta
question-
keep going back and forth?
The questions were, I just want to address the
Go
question. The questions were addressed. It was asked on a case law basis, it was provided. It was asked on a statutory basis, it was provided. It was asked on a recommended policy basis, it was provided. So there's a long chain of emails about what statutory criminal activity, what you can do, what you can't do, how far, how less, all the.
So I'm asking the subcommittee
I'm
now,
sorry.
why we didn't come to a resolve? Why we gotta keep going back and forth?
Because they didn't bring this to our attention. That
But
they
there was
were-
no
Wait a minute,
emails,
let
it was
me
in
finish.
emails, right?
We have emails that Commissioner Sorrell submitted. They didn't come to me and say they were working on this on the side. I didn't get an email to say they were working on it. If I would've gotten that email to say they were working on this, I would've been available. So I didn't get it. So this is where we at
Mr.
now.
Chair, was you, y'all, all three y'all was on the subcommittee, we didn't already come to a, my question is, that we come to a resolve? Because why we gotta have another meeting?
Because we have to read this material and understand in depth. And he got dental here, and then he has this multiple calls. And criminal activity is a broad statement. Your criminal activity might be different from mine. So I want to understand both sides, and I want to sit down and discuss it so we won't have in-depth questions when we come back to this commissioners meeting. We weren't called in for this.
It was emailed, so a copy of our entire admin plan and ACOP plan was emailed to all of the commissioners.
Right.
By myself and Ms. Curry.
Yes.
Which includes all of that as well.
Yeah, well, we got it Friday.
Mhm.
We should get our agenda a week ahead of time. The ACOP and policies was a lot of pages. I mean,
I don't know how.
Okay.
Like, it works.
So let me get some clarity here. If I'm correct, the criminal activity policy, which I think there's some discussion about a Fourth Amendment waiver that needs to be
That's
added.
dead. That's dead. Not recommending that.
Not recommending
Okay, so
that.
that's not, it's just
Not
some
a
sort
sure.
of criminal activity
That's it.
policy.
That's it.
And that is not currently included in the ACOP, what we have.
Correct, because you have to have a local criminal activity standard. You have to have a local, well, let me just stop there because that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
You have to have a local criminal activity standard.
Which we're already looking at the EEOC, which is not included in the ACOP or the admin as well. But that's something that's here. And then, what was the third one you were discussing?
The other two are a language policy, which is just adopting the fact that you can use your phone to translate, and a reasonable accommodation policy saying you're going to apply reasonable accommodation to people with disabilities.
All of these things are actually in the current ACOP. They're not as specific as what they are. The updates and making them more specific will make it easier, and so that when we go to court, the lawyers like Ms. Christine Green, the public defenders, all of that, will not have as many loopholes. That is why we needed to be more specific.
Okay, so within the current stuff that we received via email, and I'm still trying to review all of it myself. I've gotten about 70-75% of it read through. But I do appreciate these additional, the changes with the date on, or the line item there, where the changes were made inside of our printed packet here. That's going to be a big help going through that. But let me ask this: for the local criminal activity policy, which we already have the EEOC policy, the language policy still needs to be written, and the reasonable accommodations policy still need to be written. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. Approximately how long will that take?
The short one that I was hoping you could pass today would be just use technology, reasonable accommodation, and then we can flesh it out later so we don't run afoul of having HUD come back over us about just not being compliant. Because the question is gonna be, I'm just imagining, if I'm HUD, you only have to pass local policies, why won't you pass them? So I'm trying to just get something on the books. But to answer the question is, I can go the same level of in-depthness that we did with criminal activity, which is a lot, if that's what you want for the other two. We can do that.
Here's what I would suggest, because moving forward, Commissioner Dickerson, I think we start with a new spirit, and I think the policy subcommittee, we need to work this week and first next week and call an emergency meeting probably no later than Tuesday in addressing the ACOP and the admin plan. So I think it goes to the back, let's refer this back to the subcommittee. And then
I'll tell you, I'll look at my schedule.
And let's revert back to, send it back to the, one more time. Let's send it back to the subcommittee, and let's work this week, and next week have an emergency meeting to pass the ACOP and the admin plan. We need to have some, but we're gonna jeopardize, we put this agency in jeopardy of not being compliant with HUD. And that's something that we don't really wanna have. That's from the executive director's suggestion, Chairman, Madam Vice Chair.
So if I'm understanding that correctly, basically these policies that's on here, the ACOP, the admin, and the EEOC, it is, again, along with Madam Vice Chair, Executive Director, even I, like I said, I haven't completely fleshed it out myself, that the recommendation would be to figure out our schedules for the remainder of this week, early next week, and try to schedule another executive session.
Yes.
To get these approved next week. Yes, Ms. Dyer.
I just wanted to make a point. This is, I think, at least the third year in a row that approving the admin plan, a couple changes has come down to the wire for, different reasons or whatever. So whatever you guys do, if you refer it back to the committee and get it approved quickly for this year, fine. But like next year, can
We have approved by August.
Whatever
yes.
committee, make sure that they know everything that's in there
Yes.
currently, so that when Nan McKay comes out with their recommended changes for the next year, boom,
Yeah.
then that's all you need to do.
We started in the spring. We started meeting at the library doing this in the spring, but we were doing other things. Yeah, I got
When
you.
does, you said NAM McKay, when do they come out with their recommendations as a average?
Ask Kim. I don't know.
Late October.
Just a statement.
Yes, sir.
The NAM McKay, which is huge, but the changes, because you already have an ACOP, are minuscule.
Yeah, it's a lot of it.
But that's all right. That's all right though. That's all right because it seems like sometimes things come to this board at the last minute for us to make a decision. And like I said before, some part of it or all of it comes back to bite us. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not into that anymore. So we're going to do the right way so we can get everything online.
So what we'll be looking forward to is if it's generally late October that NAM McKay comes out.
We need to have ours already.
We already have on the schedule.
September, we need to have our plan.
We need to have our parts done by September.
Yes.
So that when, and the policy subcommittee is already in place, waiting in late October for that to come through, so that basically by our November meeting, or at the latest December, it's ready to go.
Because the local policies are that much. The thing's not,
So, again, I just want to be clear for the record. We're going to send this back. I'm a recommendation. We send it back to the subcommittee. And first, Monday or Tuesday, we need to have an executive session just for the ACOP and admin plan. Okay?
Making sure, and I'm just want to be clear. We're going to be looking at this, the EOC is going into there, and then at some point, we'll be looking at if it's not already completed by this time that but we can always amend it and add in the local criminal policy, the language policy, and the reasonable accommodation policy.
They're done, but we change it.
Okay, they're already done.
They're done.
Okay, so by the time we come back, all of that will be encompassed into one, and we can be done with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay? That's my recommendation.
I didn't even see Commissioner Dickerson leave.
I think we should go to the restroom.
You went to the restroom.
Board, what is your pleasure? You want to vote on this, or you want to wait for Commissioner Dickerson to come back?
Wait for
Wait on.
permission.
All right, so is there any further other discussions on this or this particular topic?
The whole thing is it gives us time to review it, and to your satisfaction, Pam, you'll be able to look over it like you wanted. And more than fair that you look over everything. So put it away would be a good idea until we can revise it.
Why?
So when, Chairman, just give me a date, this evening, tomorrow, afternoon, tomorrow, Friday. We can just get with the subcommittee and let's so we can.
Okay. So on the approval of the ACOP and admin, and I'm gonna ask that, because we did add the EEOC, I'm gonna ask that we group those item 1 and 1A together, and I will entertain a motion on that, I believe, and for your just for your knowledge there, Commissioner Dickerson, there's a consensus that it needs to be deferred back to the policy subcommittee, and then we'll look forward to a executive session, hopefully prior to actual Christmas.
Yes.
All right, so I will entertain a motion on that. Item 1 and 1A, if it's, put it in there.
A motion that we defer item 1 and 1A until this information is sent back to the subcommittee for us to go over it and come back together and discuss it and then vote on it.
I have a motion by Madam Vice Chair Bailey to defer item 1, the approval of the ACOP and admin policies, and item 1A, the EEOC policy, and refer it to the policy subcommittee for further review, to bring back at a later time. Do we have a second?
My second.
Have a second by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those have the same. That motion passes unanimously. Moving on, write-off attendance at accounts receivables classified as uncollectible as of October 2022.
Executive Director requests that the commissioners, Board of Commissioners, approve the write-off of $2,734.79.
Boy, I tell you what, this write-off only has 2 people on it. Boy, look at that.
Yes.
That's a good way to have it.
Like this in mine somewhere?
I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't see mine.
It's behind, the discussion items.
Oh, it says, I should look at the tab that says write-offs. Oh, wow.
Isn't this something?
There was a discussion I've had with, I'm just gonna make this brief, about potential evictions coming from the Housing Authority. And I think that as a result of our policy changes that we have made, that we have been working more with our residents to retain their occupancy in our properties. And I'm going to be happy to share some of this information with some of the folk who've been calling me about evictions. So let me make sure I got this correct. These people have already moved out.
Mm-hmm.
Did they move out, or did we actually have to?
Now, that I can get that answer for you. I'm not sure.
Who are these people with the units?
It says write-offs under the orange tab there.
Yeah, we can't mention their names. Yes. Let me get that answer for you. I'll get the answer immediately.
It should be right after all the number of pages. After the number of pages. One more. There you go.
Okay.
You got it, Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes, I just.
So these will be,
You can give me an answer at some point.
let me ask this question. well, I'm making an assumption. Neither of these individuals decided to become a part of our repayment program that we have.
No, they're not part of it. I'm pretty sure they're not. Not that I know of.
Are we, well, I'm gonna assume that we did make the,
But let me say this, I know where you're going with this. We are moving towards reaching back out to these residents and putting them into a repayment program so we're not hindering them from getting future housing. So we're putting that in place now.
is that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but is that currently a part of our repayment program or a policy that we have?
Not as of yet, we're working on that and see how, cause you're gonna need two different policies on that. One for when someone has refused and they have moved on, and they generally come back to us when they're trying to get into housing. So just like you trying to purchase a mortgage, my thought process, let's approach them, we try to approach a mortgage, get 3 payments, money orders, and then you can kind of clear that record up. It's called, you consider that a payment plan, and we have some on our books as an effort by them to show that they're committed to repaying our debt, and we can send a letter, a positive letter of affirmation to wherever they're trying to go that they are in the repayment plan, they're no longer delinquent. Then that's another policy that really needs to be created with current residents and how we approach that.
So, and back to Chairman Kidd's question, when we have these write-offs, were they evicted, or did they leave on their own, or did they leave and you didn't know they were gone? Because is there some way that we have a policy, if they want to leave, that they have to go through a process?
Well, I mean, there's a process that they're supposed to give us a 30-day notice.
Right.
And if they don't do that, we consider that abandonment, and we have to go to court and get our property.
But there's more than, what I'm saying is there's more than one type of a resident that wants to leave public
Yes,
housing.
yes.
They either leave them because they don't want to pay the back bill or maintenance, or they just consider that they have some issues that they're just not happy with because it's not getting a resolution to it.
Right.
So do you have some kind of way to talk to them and say, you know, like, what can we do? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I know
I'm not
exactly.
using the right terminology because I can't think of it right now, but it's like,
Well, it's one of the things that as a manager, a site manager, you had to be a counselor, you had to be a therapist, and you had to be, in many cases, a social worker. And so what we're trying to do is, to answer your question, yes. And it depends on training of our site managers. Every resident should be able to go to our site manager and say, I got a concern. They should be able to address those concerns even in grievance or before it gets to grievance. We like them before they get to grievance. What are your written concerns? Site manager should be able to address those. And then if they need central office assistance, then they will come to us and to address that. We have that process in place. We just need to do better at executing that process. So historically, we have not been very good at executing and addressing the needs of our residents. They get frustrated and they leave, whether it's maintenance, whether it's safety issues, whether it's the quality of life issues. We haven't done a great job historically. So, Vice Chairman, Madam Chairman, we are improving on that process, and it starts with our site manager.
so do all the residents know that if they decide that they don't want to stay in their contract here or they want to leave, do they know that there's a protocol that they have to go through certain people before they can check out and leave?
Yes, ma'am. It's in their lease.
Before
Yes,
they
ma'am.
hijack
Yes,
it
ma'am.
in the middle of the night?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What's this negative rent process?
Negative rent is,
What that probably is on there, I haven't seen the write-offs, but what that probably is somebody who did not report income, and so they were getting a utility allowance.
yes.
And once we found out they were working, you know, you go back and you do a retro rent, and that's what that is you know, taking that back from them in a sense.
Okay.
You add that in the balance at the end?
Yes.
And y'all eliminated the maintenance charge of what they're getting charged for in this maintenance? Y'all eliminated this off the write-off?
Most maintenance charges have, most of them with the trash, that's going away. Majority of the maintenance charges are being reduced, not to exceed $20. And so yes, in most of them, but there's a detailed fee change that we can share.
So for our benefit, you stop listing their maintenance charges?
I mean, there are no maintenance charges for this particular here.
It's
Yeah, each one has a
$889.
maintenance.
Where-
One of them says move out charges. so
Those are
it's-
both, those are move-out charges.
Yeah.
Those are,
Which was.
One is and one isn't.
but these are move-out charges.
I don't think maintenance apply on that situation.
And I think that's just how that coded is. If I'm not mistaken, it was where they put trash on the
Right.
curb,
Right.
and what it cost us to get it to the landfill. And so, but we can get a detail on that, Vice Chairman.
There was the charge list that was given in your guys' packet. If you look at that, it'll tell you that the total comes from that. But when you're moving them out and putting it in Elite, it's under a maintenance charge. It's the only code that Elite allows us to
Right,
use.
'cause you're not gonna pull out that charge list every time we get it right off and go look at it.
Right.
It used to be listed on what their maintenance charges were.
So you want the site manager just to put in each item in the amount on
So we
this
can keep
paper?
up, if we can keep up with anything that goes, as long as it's going smoothly, yeah.
Then make that note.
Executive Baker, going back to what you brought up a good point about people littering, just dropping stuff off. We used to have designated days where you would actually know when to put stuff out to
Yes,
be
sir.
picked up. Because if you don't, then everybody can put stuff out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now you got a problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we still have that policy in effect, right?
Yes.
I think so.
Think so.
I have not.
Right, because I'm seeing a lot of debris. Now, we know the holidays are here. It's gonna get worse. This is one real thing we got to actually get revised. That's a must, because that comes under making property look bad. That comes under neglect. That comes under people getting away with it, and they'll continue to do this. We got to get control of this before it get out of control. At one point, we had it under control, but somehow we dropped the ball on it.
Yes, sir.
We got to get that back under control.
Yes, sir.
That issue you brought up, that's very important. I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm seeing it on a day-to-day basis now.
Yes, sir. But
We got to get the bull by the horns on that one.
that's something that we are going to, and I think I would address that in the.
And each tenant should be notified. On certain days, you can do this, and certain days you can't do that.
Right.
See, because
Right.
I'm looking at a lot of debris, and nobody's been held accountable for it. As long as you can do it, another neighbor said, well, you can get away with it, I can get away with it. And that just compiles the situation.
And it's not on this agenda today, but we are going to address that.
Now the property's looking pretty,
Yeah, we are
pretty
going to
shabby
address it. We are
because
going
of
to.
that.
Yes, sir. We are going to address that in January's agenda's meeting, because we're spending basically 80 hours a week and just picking up trash, and we're gonna have to hold residents accountable for
See,
that.
you can minimize that if you put
a
strict
fee.
policy in
Yeah,
place
yes.
to where people say, well, I'm designated to do this on a certain day.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. But it's just general trash.
Not at random, when you feel like it.
You go out there today, right now, our maintenance men spend 4 hours, half the day picking up trash. Just for curb appeal. And that way, and they can't go into the units if you're out there picking up trash. So we got to hold our residents accountable for the yards and we do need that designated area. So
Right.
I'm sure
Designated
that we
area.
get with our site managers, make sure that that's communicated, that on this date, if you want to put out a sofa, if you want to put out large appliances, is something that we can, this is when and this is where you do it.
We already have that.
But yes, ma'am.
And,
Well,
I
you can
don't know
have
what-
all the policies you want, but if they,
That's what I'm saying. I
Right.
don't know
Want
if
it,
designating it is gonna change it if the residents are still gonna do it.
well, we have a resident council now, and so once they do it, started in Brooklyn Homes, whenever y'all have another resident councils for the different communities, implement that's one of the responsibilities of the residents. And then maybe quarterly give them a incentive of who keeps the best community. I
Yes.
mean, just something to get them onto it. And then once that dies down, and then we can put that out there and say, listen, this is the way it needs to be. Why do we have to give you an incentive to keep
But-
what you did? Do your part, and we'll do ours.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
We
Thank
kind of got off subject there.
Yeah, yeah.
So let me bring us back to the subject, which is the write-offs. I have a question. My question about the write-offs is, within what we're discussing about the additional repayment program after they have left our public housing, how is that going to affect the debt collectors in going forward?
That's,
And you may not have the answer to that right now. That may be open for further
well,
discussion.
I mean, that's
But I
a
think that that's
focus.
something that we need to.
We do need to pursue that, and real quick. It's hard out here, folks. It's just hard. You know, it's difficult out here, and so we need to consider that. But I think that's from a policy standpoint. We just need to come together. How can we make it better for our post-resident, if possible, and what that policy look like?
Okay.
All right.
So, I will entertain a motion to approve the write-off of tenants' accounts receivable classified as uncollectible as of October 31st, 2022.
I motion that we, all of that, accept the write-offs. And we can use this as a template and see how it goes by next year this time, if it's go like this, or a blank one, period.
Yes,
That would be
ma'am.
even better.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, got a motion by Madam Vice Chair Bailey to approve the write-offs of tenants' accounts receivable classified as uncollectible as of October 31, 2022. Do I have a second?
Me, second.
Second by Commissioner Dobson. Are there any further discussions?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, have the same.
Yeah,
Oh. So that motion passes unanimously. Discussion items. Do we have any reports of committees? Commissioners' items. Do we have any commissioners' items? There is a need for executive session, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn from our regular meeting to go into executive session.
Make a motion.
Got a motion by Commissioner Dobson to adjourn our regular meeting and move into executive session. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Madam Vice Chair Bailey. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. That motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so we're back from executive session, and we have a couple items that we need to vote on. Number one is the payout for Ms. Strickland. We've had our discussion on that. I will entertain a motion on the payout for former Executive Director Angela Strickland.
I'll make a motion for a payout.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson, seconded by Commissioner Dobson, to pay the remainder of Strickland's balance, time, such and so forth to the agency. Do we have any further discussion?
I want to agree, but I know what you said, but if there's anything legal that we can omit, I would rather you research that before we agree to it and then find out that we could negotiate it smaller. saying. But, you know, where does it say, where is the information that says we can't do that and negotiate? You know what I'm saying?
Right, and due to federal law, we cannot.
Where's the federal law that says that? Where's the federal law that says that?
We will have to get that one for you specifically, but, yeah, and again, there's nothing currently in our policies that says that we can't do that either. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, have the same.
Aye.
That motion passes 3-1. Next up is the zero threshold topic. We had some discussion there pertaining to legal counsel and congressional, and I will entertain a motion on the zero threshold.
What's the motion again?
The zero threshold. So again, with limited discussion, I don't want to go too much on that, but it is pertaining to legal counsel with Stuart Duggan and the congressional, they are pending the results.
So wasn't that what Mr. Baker was coming in to say in the middle of our meeting about this threshold?
Yes.
What was that information you had?
Should we get it in writing? We had a conversation with regional office that we will be removed. With no finding and also support letter for this leadership until then. That's one of the things that you're going to further conversation with me. I'm waiting on the letter now.
So I will wait until the letter comes here and read it, because we don't have to do the congressional thing. I mean, just to see what they have in writing before we vote on anything.
Well, that was part of our discussion with pending. If it wasn't going to be beneficial, then we would already have the approval to move forward.
So then there might be something in there that could be disputed.
Right, and if it came back positive, then those other two issues were basically being on the board. If it came back negative, then we would already have things in place to be able to provide.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like to make a motion that we protect the agency, so let's go forward.
I have a motion, and just to make sure that you got the fact, understand correctly. Motion from Commissioner Dickerson, apologies, I just want to make sure.
No, you're talking about.
That pending the zero threshold results, pending those results, we approve legal counsel and congressional case management, pending those, approve those if it's negative. If it's not, then they become eligible.
Can we revisit this?
Yes.
Get the information that.
Yes.
That's proper for this board.
Yes. And then that's seconded by Commissioner Dobson. All those in, or do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously. Next up is the MOU with Sepia Transformation Partners to begin the RAD development for public housing. We've had a chance to discuss that. And I will entertain a motion on the approval of the MOU with Sepia Transformation Partners to begin the RAD process for public housing.
Make a motion that we approve it. I second that motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dickerson to approve the MOU with Sepia Transformation Partners to begin the RAD process for public housing, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion?
As long as if there's no funding and all they're doing is an assessment, and they will bring that assessment back to us, and that's fine.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, have the same. Any abstentions? Alright, so that motion passes unanimously. Next up is the Boys and Girls Club, which we discussed. And so I will entertain a motion to defer the decision on Boys and Girls Club until we've had an opportunity to sit down again with them, with Madam Vice Chair Bailey present for discussion. I will entertain that motion.
I motion that we defer the Boys and Girls Club until myself and another commissioner sit down with them and go over negotiations and how we can get back into good standings with them.
I have a motion by Madam Vice Chair Bailey to defer the Boys and Girls Club topic, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same? Aye. That motion passes 3-1. Finally is the Baker contract, the interim executive director Baker's contract. We have provided him with the terms. He has accepted at this point. We need to vote to approve and send it over to the attorney to get everything together, and then I'll be able to sign off on that. So I will entertain a motion to approve the terms of the new agreement and send that over to the attorneys for review.
Make motion. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dobson to approve the new terms for the Baker contract and send it to the attorney, seconded by Commissioner Dickerson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, have the same.
Aye.
That motion passes 3-1. Are there any other issues that we need to discuss before we adjourn?
I do, we do need to be on the calendar for, policy, subcommittee, the ACOP, DLC, and, admin, and we do that this week, so, moving ahead and do the date this week, this afternoon, and work with that.
It won't be today, I'm busy today.
Okay.
And I've got some time. I've got Thursday the 15th at this point is pretty open for me, and so is Friday for the most point at this point. I'm just checking the calendar. I'm not sure of any additional updates that may fall in there. So again, I'm available tomorrow for sure, and looks like I'm pretty good on Friday.
I'm only available Friday, but usually on a regular day, Monday and Fridays are good for me.
What time you want to meet on Friday?
Friday, we can meet at 11:30.
I know I'm in the board meeting, I'm in the required, and that's 10 o'clock. What time?
Maybe over 11.
Well, I'll be changing to it too, but that's my favorite. And then if we can do Monday, have an emergency, board meeting Monday to approve.
Friday, 11:30.
Monday we can get the board to approve the, executive session, for approval of the admin plan, ACOP, and
That's about it.
When do we, Ms. Curry, when do we need to, and I know this becomes gotta be advertised in the paper, so if we need to be here on Monday for the executive session to approve it, when do you need to have it in for the newspaper?
I use by tomorrow before 3. But I can put it in the paper, I can email them today and ask them to run it for, Friday. If that's enough time.
No. If we're looking to, my vice chair and I will be here on Friday to review the policy section. And then we'll need to come back to executive session or a special call to approve it. And if that's gonna be on Monday, that you need to have it in by 3 p.m. tomorrow.
Or today, I can email the newspaper today, and they can advertise it if you guys would like for
Monday.
Yeah, advertise it, but if you want to go in the paper Friday or Monday?
Just so long as we fulfill the legal obligation of the advertisement, that's what we need to do.
Okay.
I'm just asking what's our timeline to be able to get that done.
3 p.m.
So no later than 3 p.m. tomorrow, it needs to be in there so that we can still have a meeting on Monday. Are you guys, I need you to look at your calendars and see what Monday looks like for you guys.
So Monday's gonna be the special call, right?
Yeah. That's
Can
what,
we do that on Zoom?
I think we can, because
Because
it'll just be you and I presenting back to them, this is.
Yeah, what we
this is
did.
Yeah.
What we did. So we have a policy, we didn't go for the policy, we have a special call on Monday the 19th. Okay.
That would be the chairman's, right? That would be you guys.
What, Monday?
Well, no, it would be all of us.
Because I won't be available.
You are not available on Monday.
What day will you be available?
I really don't know this week coming up, it's gonna be hectic for me. I have to go conference again.
Yeah, it's gonna be really quick.
Yeah, it's gonna be on, all we're gonna do is vote, yes or
Yeah,
no.
we're gonna vote yes or no on the policies.
Yeah,
Could be
just
done.
take me for conference.
Okay. And
Company call.
I do have an 11:30 to 1 on Monday, so it needs to be either before or after that time.
You say you have an 11:30?
On Monday.
10 o'clock,
Monday, what you say you'll put 11:30, can we do it about 2?
2 p.m.?
They give you enough time to do it, yeah, 11:30. If it's shorter,
Okay, so is everyone cool with Monday at 2 p.m. for the executive session to approve the policies? And
Here we'll be back. We have to have one short announcement.
Okay, so Monday at 2 p.m.?
Yes.
And just let me say this, before we move forward, Mr. Baker, if you have anything that you wanna send to the Brunswick News, you have to submit that to the board first, so we can look
No,
over.
no, you don't
Yes,
have to. No, you don't
yes,
not. That's
well,
interfering
you
with
don't
day-to-day
have to,
activities.
but listen,
That's interfering with day-to-day
I,
activities.
no it
We
isn't,
don't
no
get
it
to do
isn't,
that.
no it isn't,
Yes, ma'am. We
no
don't
it
get to do
isn't,
that.
no it isn't,
Yes, ma'am.
no
We
it
do not
isn't.
get to do that.
Because certain things, you made a statement leaving out of here the other day. But I would like to see the things that goes before in the newspaper, before it goes out there.
It doesn't have to come to the board for approval, but if you want to
We wanna see what
you wanna
he's
see it,
saying.
Yeah, that's fine, but it doesn't have to be approved by the board.
No, but I just
Oh,
wanna
okay.
see it,
Okay.
if the wording is right, if something gotta be eliminated or not said.
Sounds great. Any further discussion before we adjourn? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second that, I motion that we adjourn.
I second it.
Got a motion by Madam Vice Chair Bailey to adjourn the regular meeting, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, staff. We appreciate it. It's been a long day. Got a lot of stuff accomplished. Let's continue working together.